These events occurred in the 1980s when I was living in Omaha, Nebraska. I bought a house and lived there for 2 years. The house was built in 1929 and was in need of various repairs, so I got a great deal on a contract for deed. A few weeks after moving in, objects began to appear on the kitchen floor in the same corner. First, an antique pepper shaker, half full of old pepper. Then an antique crochet hook and a slip of very old paper with some unintelligible scrawling. None of these items belonged to me. I would then begin to hear footsteps on the ceiling of the living room, as if someone lived upstairs, but that part of the home was one story. The master bedroom was upstairs in a separate portion of the home. Later, the scent of a sweaty man would wake me up in the middle of the night, but I never saw an apparition. One day, I was coming home from work and unlocked the deadbolt lock to the front door. It was the original door from 1929 and also had the original skeleton key-type lock, which never worked. However, the door wouldn't open. I checked for anything that would be stuck around the door, and I also unscrewed the faceplate from the deadbolt and saw the deadbolt mechanism was normal. The bolt was retracted. It was perfectly unlocked. Even still, the door would not budge. I finally retrieved a ladder from the backyard, remembering that I'd left the upstairs bedroom window open, and climbed in through the window. I went down to the front door and tried to open it from the inside. It still wouldn't move. I unscrewed the faceplate of the skeleton-type doorknob/lock and removed it. Inside, I found a spent .22 caliber shell inside, jamming the antique locking mechanism into the lock position. I calmly replaced the faceplate and doorknob, and the door then opened easily. I turned to go from the living room toward the kitchen and noticed on the hardwood flooring a large dark stain that hadn't been there before. It seemed to be slowly spreading, but was embedded into the wood. I figured this was something to do with the spirit that was inhabiting the house, so I went to my next-door neighbor's home to casually ask what she knew about the previous owner. Luckily, she was an elderly lady who had lived there since the 1950s and told me a story that sent chills down my spine. I learned that the previous owner was a small-time whiskey runner during Prohibition, a chronic alcoholic, living there alone. He suffered from depression and sometime around 1965 had committed suicide. He did so in the living room, putting a .22 caliber pistol to his head. I ultimately signed the property back to the realty company and moved to Minnesota.